Past Thursday should have been an ordinary evening. I came home from work, grabbed a beer, and settled on the couch while Amanda, my wife, was out with her friends. She mentioned something about dinner or drinks, but honestly, I hadn't paid much attention. Our routine had become background noise, predictable, unremarkable. She'd go out with her friends, and I'd stay home. It had been like this for a while, but recently Amanda had become much more social than usual. She had never been the type to have a large circle of friends, but now there was always someone to meet, always an event to attend. At first I didn't mind, it gave me some time alone. But when she began coming home later and her explanations about where she'd been started feeling incomplete, I began to notice. That night I did something out of the ordinary. I got up from the couch and went to our bedroom, planning to grab my laptop. That's when I noticed something odd. Amanda's closet door was slightly ajar. Usually she kept it closed, everything neatly in its place. But now, something was sticking out. It was a shoebox, not an unusual thing for a closet, but I knew she hadn't bought new shoes recently. Curiosity got the best of me, so I pulled the box out. Inside, there weren't any shoes. Instead, I found a small black velvet pouch. My heartbeat quickened as I opened it, but all it contained was a single object, a red nail. Not a fake salon-style nail, but an actual metal nail like one you'd use with a hammer. Strange, right? It had to be some kind of keepsake or maybe a memento from a project, right? I tossed it back in the box, but my mind raced. What kind of keepsake is a nail? I tried to ignore it, but something about the whole scene gnawed at me, the unanswered questions, the late nights, the odd red nail in the closet. Maybe I was reading too much into things, but a nagging voice in my head told me to dig deeper. So I waited. I waited until she came home. When she finally walked through the door, it was almost midnight. She seemed different, not suspicious exactly, but in a way that made my skin crawl. The Amanda I knew had always been easygoing, never overly concerned with her appearance. But recently she had changed, sharper, more polished, like a weapon in disguise. The red lipstick, the tight dress, the way she moved through the room without acknowledging me, something felt off. "Hey, how was your night?" I asked, studying her carefully. She barely glanced in my direction. "Fine," she answered, tossing her bag onto the counter as if nothing had happened, looking tired. I nodded, but unease gnawed at me, the red nail, her increasingly flimsy excuses. Yet, I didn't press her, not yet. It felt like the calm before a storm, a moment where everything holds its breath. That's how I felt, like I was holding my breath, so I kept quiet for now. I didn't bring up the red nail right away. I figured I'd keep observing her, see if any more clues slipped through the cracks. Amanda had always been good at keeping her life in neat compartments, but now it seemed like one of those compartments was breaking open, and I wanted to see what might spill out. The next day seemed perfectly normal. She went to work, I went to work, no tension, no awkwardness. But that didn't stop the nagging suspicion in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't right. That night, when she said she was heading to bed early because of a morning meeting, I knew she was lying. Her tone was too casual, too rehearsed. But I let her go, telling myself to be patient. An hour later, I went upstairs, trying to act casual as I checked on her. She was in bed, facing away from me, her phone on the nightstand. Then, I noticed something. Her phone screen lit up briefly, not with a notification, but with a text message. I couldn't read the entire message before it disappeared, but I saw enough. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible." My heart stopped. That message wasn't meant for me. I stared at her sleeping form, my hands beginning to tremble. I wanted to grab the phone and scroll through every vile word she'd exchanged with whoever that was. But I held back. If I took the phone now, she'd wake up, and I'd lose my advantage. And I wasn't ready for a confrontation I might not win. Instead, I retreated, closing the bedroom door softly behind me and heading back to the couch downstairs. My mind was racing. Who was she texting? That message told me enough to know what was happening. There wasn't any innocent explanation, no friend, no simple story that could justify it. Someone else had been with my wife, but I needed more proof. So I sat there, my thoughts spinning like a broken record, trying to piece together the past few months, the late nights, her changed behavior, the stupid red nail hidden in her closet, and now the text. Everything was coming together, but I needed a way to catch her, something undeniable, something she couldn't weasel out of. Then an idea struck me. Amanda wasn't reckless, but she wasn't exactly tech-savvy either. She used the same password for everything: her email, social media, even her banking app. I knew because we'd set them up together years ago. If I could access her cloud backup, I could find all those messages. My hands shook as I powered up my laptop, logging into her iCloud, my heart racing like it might burst from my chest. It took a moment, but when her messages began loading, it felt like a dam breaking. The first message was from the same number as the one that had appeared earlier. "I can't stop thinking about you." The one before that read, "I'll tell him it's a work trip this weekend." A work trip. Amanda had never mentioned going away for the weekend. My stomach twisted. I scrolled further. "That red dress, you know what it does to me." I froze. The red dress, that was the same one she had worn last night, the one she walked in with like everything was normal. With each message, the ugly truth became clearer. Amanda wasn't just having an affair, she was mocking me, living an entire other life right under my nose. I stared at the screen, my mind blank, except for one thought: this wasn't just a betrayal, this was a declaration of war, and I wasn't going to lose it. I couldn't sleep that night, how could I? Every time I shut my eyes, I saw Amanda's smile, the one she used to give me, now reserved for someone else, someone who knew exactly what that red dress did to her, someone who wasn't me. By morning, I had a plan. I wouldn't confront her, not yet. I wasn't ready for that. I needed more, something she couldn't deny. I wanted to see her expression when she realized there was no way out, that she couldn't play the role of the innocent wife anymore. More than that, I wanted to see her break under the weight of her own lies. When Amanda came downstairs that morning, she was as casual as ever, dressed in her usual work attire. She kissed me on the cheek like it was any other day, then grabbed her coffee. "Big day at the office?" I asked, keeping my tone steady, not letting on to the turmoil brewing inside me. "Yeah, pretty busy," she answered without even glancing up, her fingers tapping on her phone, probably messaging him. "I might be late tonight, we've got this client thing." I almost laughed. She didn't even hesitate when lying to me anymore. It was almost impressive how effortlessly she wove her stories together. But I wasn't buying it now. "Of course, babe," I replied, keeping my voice light. "I'll be here when you get back." I watched her walk out, all calm and collected, while inside I was barely managing to keep it together. I wasn't sure how I'd make it through the day without blowing up, but I had to. Timing was everything. If I confronted her too early, she'd twist things around, make me look like I was overreacting. No, I needed to catch her in the act. So after she left, I kept digging. The messages I'd found were a start, but I needed more. From the texts, it was clear there was a weekend trip coming up. She hadn't mentioned it to me, of course, but I knew work trip was just a cover for her secret getaway. I went through her emails, and there it was, a hotel confirmation, a fancy one. It was booked under her name, but I knew she wouldn't be going alone. The reservation was for this upcoming Friday, 3 days away. My anger flared again. She was planning a weekend with this guy while I stayed home, clueless. But this time, I wasn't going to stay clueless. I was going to be there when she walked into that hotel with him. That night, I kept up the act. She came home late, smelling of her supposed client meeting. I didn't question her, didn't accuse her of anything. I just listened, every word she said layering on the lies. She didn't notice that I saw right through her anymore. "You okay?" she asked finally, looking up from her phone after dinner. "Yeah, just tired," I lied smoothly. "Long day," she smiled, and for a moment I almost forgot. Almost, because that smile still hit a part of me that remembered what it used to mean. But now I knew better. That smile wasn't for me anymore. It was for the person on the other end of her messages. Over the next few days, I put my plan into action. I called in sick at work, telling my boss I had some family issues. It wasn't entirely a lie. I was about to watch my family fall apart right in front of me. I also hired a private investigator, someone to help me gather evidence, so that when the time came to confront her, she wouldn't be able to deny anything. Friday came sooner than I'd expected. That morning, Amanda packed a small bag, giving me the same worn-out excuse about her work trip. "It's just 2 nights," she said. "I'll be back Sunday. Maybe we can do something fun then." I nodded as I watched her zip up her bag. "Yeah, sounds good." I kissed her goodbye, and she left with that same fake smile, as if everything was fine. But this time, I wasn't staying behind. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my own bag, the one with my camera, an extra phone, and everything I'd need to catch her. I followed her out the door, my heart racing, adrenaline coursing through me like a drug. This was it. I knew where she was headed, and I planned to make sure she never saw me coming. I trailed her, not too closely, just enough to keep her in sight without raising suspicion. Amanda had never been one to be cautious, especially not about something like this. I doubted she ever imagined I might be behind her, tracking her every move. It was almost laughable how self-assured she seemed, driving to her secret getaway with him, the man whose name I still didn't know. The drive felt endless, my grip tightening on the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Every mile felt like another twist of the knife, but I wasn't backing down. This wasn't just about the pain anymore, it was about catching her red-handed. I was determined to see it through, to witness the moment her lies finally caught up with her. After almost an hour, she pulled into the parking lot of a sleek, upscale hotel just outside the city. I parked a little further back, out of sight, but close enough to watch her get out of the car. My heart pounded so fiercely that I thought it might give me away. Amanda stepped out, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, nothing too flashy, but I knew she wasn't planning to stay dressed like that for long. The red dress she had packed was for him, he clearly had a thing for it. She walked into the hotel without a second glance, showing no hesitation. I let her vanish into the lobby before checking my phone. A message flashed from the investigator. I'm in position. She's checking in. Do you want me to follow? No, wait for him, I replied. I didn't have to wait long. About 20 minutes later, another car pulled up. I didn't recognize it, but that didn't matter. I knew who the driver was the moment he stepped out. He was tall, sharply dressed, the type who probably prided himself on his polished appearance. He looked like a businessman with a picture-perfect life, maybe even a wife waiting at home disgusting. This was the man my wife was sneaking away with, the one she'd been lying to me about for months. I couldn't look away as he strolled into the hotel, confident, as if he owned the place, heading straight for Amanda's room, no doubt. It was unfolding right in front of me, the betrayal I'd been piecing together. I stayed in my car, my pulse racing, feeling like the walls were closing in around me. I could have barged in right then, but that wasn't the plan. I had to stay smart about this. I sent another message to the investigator, follow him. I want photos. Then I waited 5 minutes, then 10. Every second stretched into agony, knowing what was happening behind those walls. Finally, my phone buzzed again, room 327. They're together. I have photos of everything. But my stomach twisted. This was it, solid, undeniable evidence. It wasn't just suspicious texts or late-night excuses anymore, it was real. Amanda was in that room with him, doing God knows what, and I had the proof. I hadn't even realized I was shaking until I looked down at my hands. I felt paralyzed, unable to move, unable to think, as anger, disgust, and heartbreak swirled through me like a storm. I couldn't tell which emotion would win, but I knew one thing for sure: the confrontation was coming, and it wouldn't be pretty. I pushed the car door open, my legs unsteady, as if they barely belonged to me. I walked across the parking lot, trying to steady my nerves, to focus on what I had to do next. I wasn't about to lose my composure, no matter how much I felt like exploding inside. I was determined to confront her with every dirty secret, every sickening lie, and make sure she knew that I was aware of everything. But first I needed to witness it myself. As I entered the hotel, I forced myself to keep a steady pace, even though my heart felt like it might burst out of my chest. The lobby was calm, the soft notes of jazz playing over the speakers, as if it were just another peaceful Friday night. I headed straight to the elevator, feeling my pulse quicken as I pressed the button for the 3rd floor. Each floor ticked by slowly, each second dragging on, but eventually the doors slid open. I stepped into the hallway, the dim lighting doing nothing to ease my nerves. I knew I was getting closer to room 327, I could feel it. And then, there it was, her room. I stood outside the door, straining to hear, my breath coming in short, rapid bursts as I reached for the handle. I knew what was going on inside, but nothing could have truly prepared me for what I heard next. Laughter. Her laughter, and a man's voice, deep and smooth, saying something I couldn't quite make out. But it wasn't the words, it was the way they sounded, so relaxed, like they didn't have a care in the world, like I was invisible, like everything they were doing was perfectly normal, even right. A surge of rage hit me, and I clenched my fist, ready to hammer on the door, ready to rip apart her facade right there. But I held back, forcing myself to wait. I wanted the confrontation, but I wanted it on my terms. I wasn't going to let her win by dragging me into a chaotic scene. I needed to be in control. I took a step back and pulled out my phone, sending a message to the investigator, "Get ready. We're about to blow this wide open." But I wasn't going to barge in, not yet. I had a different plan. Standing outside that door, listening to Amanda's laughter mix with his, felt like teetering on the edge of a cliff, ready to leap. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in, to pull her out of that room, to demand answers right there. But I held back. The anger was fierce, but my need for control was stronger. I wasn't going to let her twist this, turn herself into the victim. No, this moment would be mine. I stepped back from the door, feeling the fury simmering inside, but I forced myself to stay composed. I already had what I needed: photos, videos, every piece of evidence. But Amanda didn't know that. She had no idea her carefully crafted lie was about to collapse, and I would make sure she felt every moment of its destruction. I took the elevator back down to the lobby, each floor giving me more time to think about my next move. This was no longer just about catching her in the act, it was about ensuring she couldn't twist the story to her advantage. She'd spun her web of deceit for months, and now I was going to burn it to the ground. When I reached the lobby, I called my investigator. "Meet me out front," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I could hear him shifting around on the other end. "You ready for this?" he asked, his tone low and serious. "Yeah," I replied, my breath tight. "I have a plan." Stepping out into the cool night air, I spotted him in an unremarkable sedan parked a few spaces away. He got out as I approached, a camera slung over his shoulder, a laptop bag at his side. I quickly walked him through my plan, and he raised an eyebrow in surprise. "That's bold," he said, clearly taken aback. "That's the point," I replied, almost gritting my teeth. "She's not wriggling out of this. I want everything exposed, where she can't hide." He nodded, understanding my determination. "All right, let's do this." We sat in his car for a bit, going over the plan. He had already sent me the evidence photos of Amanda meeting the guy, entering the hotel, with the room number clearly visible in the background. I had all the texts, to everything she thought she'd hidden so well. This wasn't just evidence, it was ammunition, and I intended to use it. Then came the final piece of my plan, the one that would make it impossible for her to escape. I called Amanda's best friend, Melissa. She had been Amanda's closest confidante for as long as I could remember, practically her shadow. Melissa knew all of Amanda's secrets, or at least, I thought she did. I doubted she knew about this one, though. Melissa was loyal, no question, but she wasn't the type to cover up something like this if she saw the truth for herself. I was counting on that. The phone rang twice before she picked up. "Hey, Josh," she answered, sounding a little surprised. I didn't usually call her out of the blue. "Hey, Melissa, I need your help with something," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "It's about Amanda. Can you meet me right now?" She paused, concern creeping into her tone. "Is everything okay? What's going on?" "I'll explain when you get here," I replied, not wanting to give away too much over the phone. "I just really need you here. It's important." There was another hesitation, but I could hear the worry in her voice. "Okay, yeah, where are you?" I gave her the address of the hotel and hung up. A part of me regretted dragging her into this, but I knew it was the only way. Melissa had always been fiercely protective of Amanda, but I was banking on her loyalty shifting once she saw the reality in front of her. If she couldn't defend Amanda, then Amanda wouldn't be able to spin her way out of this. 20 minutes later, Melissa pulled up outside the hotel, stepping out of her car quickly with a worried expression. "Josh, what's going on? You're scaring me." I took a deep breath. "It's bad, Melissa. I'm sorry, but you need to see this yourself." She blinked, confusion crossing her face. "See what? What are you talking about?" I handed her my phone, the screen displaying one of the photos of Amanda and her mystery man entering the hotel room together. Melissa stared at it, the confusion melting into a darker realization. She looked up at me, her mouth slightly open, but no words came at first. "What? What is this?" she finally whispered, her voice trembling. "It's exactly what it looks like," I said, the anger leaking into my voice. "She's cheating, Melissa, and I need you to help me confront her." Melissa's expression twisted, shock and disbelief fighting for control. No, this can't be right. There's got to be some explanation. Amanda wouldn't. She would." I cut in, my voice edged with bitterness. "And she has been for months. Look, I didn't want to believe it either, but it's true. She's upstairs with him right now. I just need you there when I confront her. She won't be able to lie if you're standing right beside me." Tears filled Melissa's eyes, but she nodded slowly, realizing there was no escaping the truth. "Okay, I'll come with you." We walked back into the hotel, each step feeling heavier than the last. My heart pounded in my chest, but my mind was clear. This was it, where Amanda's web of lies would unravel, one strand at a time, right in front of her best friend. We rode the elevator in silence, Melissa looking pale as she struggled to process what she had just learned. I could see the cracks forming in her loyalty to Amanda, and soon, Amanda would see them too. We reached the 3rd floor, and I guided Melissa down the hallway to room 327. I stopped right outside, taking a deep breath, knowing this was the moment where everything would unravel. I knocked firmly on the door. Housekeeping, I called out, my voice steady but loud. There was movement inside, and a few seconds later, the door cracked open. Amanda stood there, her eyes going wide with shock when she saw me. She was wearing the red dress, and behind her, I caught a glimpse of him, Mr. Perfect, bare-chested and frozen like a deer caught in headlights. It was time. Amanda's face went white as soon as she saw me. Her mouth opened as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. She just stood there, holding the door partially open, staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice icy and controlled, though every part of me was struggling to keep it together. I took a step forward, pushing the door open wider. Behind Amanda, he stood motionless, shirtless, reaching for something, maybe his jacket, maybe his phone, who knew? He looked just as I had imagined, tall, clean-cut, and wearing that stupid guilty expression like he'd just realized the game was up. Amanda finally found her voice. "Josh, what? What are you doing here?" she stammered, her tone shaky and panicked, as if she thought she might still talk her way out of this. I took a step further into the room. "What am I doing here?" I repeated slowly, my anger simmering beneath the surface. "Maybe you can tell me what you're doing here, Amanda." Melissa, who had been standing behind me, stepped into the room, her face a mix of disbelief and hurt. She hadn't said anything yet, but her presence was like a shadow over Amanda's every word. Amanda's eyes darted to Melissa, her panic deepening. This wasn't just a private showdown between the two of us anymore. Now it was public, with her best friend witnessing everything. There was no way to twist the narrative, no way to paint me as the crazy one. Amanda took a step back, her eyes bouncing nervously between me and Melissa. "Josh, I can explain. It's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like," I cut her off, a bitter laugh escaping. "Really, Amanda? Are you serious? I'm standing in a hotel room with you and your half-naked boyfriend, and you're telling me it's not what it looks like?" Her eyes flicked back to the man behind her, who was now awkwardly fumbling to button up his shirt, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. I glanced at him, this coward who hadn't even managed an apology or a protest, just stood there like a guilty child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. "Who the hell is he?" I demanded, pointing directly at him, not bothering to hide the venom in my voice. "Come on, Amanda, give me a name. You owe me that much." She hesitated, her mouth moving but no words coming out. She couldn't even meet my eyes. I shifted my gaze to him. "And you? Got anything to say, or are you just going to stand there looking like an idiot?" He shifted uncomfortably, clearing his throat. "Look, man, I didn't—" "Shut up," I snapped, cutting him off. "I don't want to hear a word from you." He froze, eyes wide, clearly not expecting that. Good. I wanted him to know just how insignificant he was in all of this. He was nobody, just some fool tangled in Amanda's web of lies. But this wasn't about him. It was about her. Amanda reached out as if she thought she could somehow calm me down, smooth things over. "Josh, please, just listen. I can explain everything." I took a step back, holding up my hand to stop her. "Explain what, Amanda? That you've been sneaking around behind my back for months? That you've been lying to my face every single day? Do you really think there's anything you can say right now that's going to make this better?" She bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes, but I wasn't buying it this time. The fake tears, the excuses, they meant nothing to me now. Then Melissa finally spoke, her voice quiet but cutting, like she was trying to process the shock of it all. "Amanda, how could you?" Amanda turned to Melissa, her expression crumbling even more. "Melissa, But Melissa shook her head, her voice quivering with anger and betrayal. "You've been lying to me too, haven't you? All this time, pretending like everything was fine, like we were fine. How could you do this?" Amanda's tears flowed freely now. She looked cornered, desperate, like an animal trapped in a cage. It just happened," she stammered, her voice breaking. "I never meant for this. It wasn't supposed to be like this." Something inside me snapped. "Wasn't supposed to be like this," I repeated, my voice rising. Amanda, this wasn't some accident. This didn't just happen. You made this choice every single time you lied, every time you met him. You chose this. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me: anger, betrayal, months of deception. It was suffocating. I wanted to scream, to break something, to make her feel even a fraction of the hurt she had caused me. But I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. I wouldn't let her see me fall apart. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. You know what this is, Amanda? I asked, holding it up. It's everything. The texts, the photos, the emails I know about the hotel reservations, the work trips, all of it. I have proof, Amanda. You're not talking your way out of this. But her face turned ashen, the tears drying up almost instantly. She knew exactly what that meant. There was no coming back from this, not now, not ever. I turned to Melissa, who still stood there, staring at Amanda like she didn't recognize her. You see it now, don't you? This is who she really is. Melissa just nodded, her eyes hard, still processing the shock. Yeah, she whispered. I see it. I took a step back, feeling the crushing weight of everything settle over me: anger, betrayal, the stark realization that my entire life, my relationship, had been built on lies. There was no going back. Amanda stood there, silent, tears streaming down her face, but they meant nothing to me anymore. All I felt was emptiness. She had shattered everything, and now I was walking away from the ruins. The room was quiet except for Amanda's unsteady breathing and the pounding of my heart in my ears. I looked at her, feeling a wave of disbelief, and clarity hit me harder than anything else. This was the woman I had built my life with, the person I thought I knew better than anyone. But now, standing here, watching her unravel, I realized she had been a stranger all along. Melissa couldn't even bear to look at her anymore, standing off to the side, arms crossed, eyes red as she fought to keep herself together. It wasn't just me that Amanda had deceived. She'd lied to her best friend, to everyone who had trusted her, and now all those lies were exposed. Amanda took a shaky breath, her voice barely audible. Josh, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I never wanted to hurt you. Please, just give me a chance to explain. I almost laughed. Explain? After everything I'd seen, after everything I knew, she still thought she could salvage this. She believed she could talk her way out of it, like she always had, spinning her lies with just enough sincerity to make me doubt myself. But not this time. I was finished. I raised my hand to stop her, finally feeling a calm settle over me. Amanda, don't even try. There's nothing left for you to explain. I shot a glance at the guy, now fully dressed, lingering near the edge of the bed like he was searching for a way to disappear. And I certainly don't want to hear another word from him. Amanda winced at the cold edge in my voice, but I felt no sympathy. She deserved every bit of it. What now? She asked, her voice quivering. Josh, please, what do you want me to do? What do I want you to do? I repeated, the absurdity of her question cutting through me. You think there's something you can do to make this right after everything you've done? I stepped closer, my voice dropping lower. I want you to understand something, Amanda. You didn't just hurt me, you didn't just lie. You destroyed everything. You took our life, our marriage, and you burned it to the ground. Her lips trembled, more tears spilling down her face, but I felt nothing. Her tears didn't move me anymore. I was too far gone. I'll do anything, she whispered, her voice cracking. I'll make it right. Just give me a chance. Before I could respond, Melissa's voice cut through the air, sharp and icy. Amanda, you can't fix this. Look around, look at what you've done. There's no fixing this. Amanda turned to Melissa, desperation etched into every line of her face. Please, Melissa, you know me. You know I'm not. Not what? Melissa interrupted, her eyes blazing. Not a liar? Not a cheater? Not someone who could sit across from me, knowing what you were doing, and pretend like everything was fine? Because that's exactly who you are, Amanda. I've known you for years and I don't even recognize you anymore. Her voice wavered with a mix of anger and heartbreak. You didn't just hurt Josh, you hurt all of us. Amanda's shoulders sagged, the full weight of her actions finally sinking in. She hadn't just lost me, she'd lost Melissa too. Everything she thought she could control, every person she thought she could deceive, it was all slipping away. I glanced at the door, knowing what had to come next. This is over, I said, my tone final. I'm done. Her eyes widened with fear as she realized the gravity of my words. Wait, what do you mean? I mean it's over, Amanda, I said, each word landing with the weight of a hammer. I'm leaving. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows why. You can't lie your way out of this." She gasped, staggering backward as if I had physically struck her. "Josh, please don't do this. We can talk, we can." "Stop," I snapped, raising my voice for the first time. "Stop pretending there's anything left to discuss. You think I'm going to forgive you. Just forget everything that happened and act like you didn't destroy everything." I paused, forcing myself to regain control. "I gave you everything, Amanda. I trusted you, and you threw it all away. So now, I'm done with you." The words hit her like a punch, and she stumbled, catching herself on the edge of the bed. This time, she had no words. She couldn't find anything to say. I turned my gaze to the guy, still awkwardly standing there, trying to avoid my eyes. I realized I couldn't even summon the energy to hate him anymore. He wasn't the real issue here.